Trudeau's internet censorship bureaucrats just found out Canadians can make up their own minds about what they want to watch. Thank you very much. You know, it's funny. The legacy media used to think they had us all under control. Captive audiences, spoon-fed narratives, and no competition in sight. So, like, no reason to do a better job. But now their stranglehold on public opinion is crumbling faster than a CBC executive's credibility under questioning. And the best part, these people did it to themselves. A new report by the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, or the CRTC, called Perceptions of Canadian Programming and News, confirms what we already knew. Canadians are waking up to the mainstream media's bias. The report is based on a survey of over 1,200 Canadians and is funded by your tax dollars, of course, to the tune of almost $130,000. Now, the CRTC, that newly expanded, overreaching government regulator with a vested interest in keeping the state-friendly press afloat, actually had to admit that people are ditching corporate news in favor of independent sources. Why? Because the mainstream media does a terrible job of reporting fairly. I'm going to stop right here. I don't have a problem with journalistic bias. I have a problem with undeclared journalistic bias. I have a problem with the people on the CBC presenting themselves as anything other than completely liberal, friendly, and entirely funded by the federal government. You know that I digest the news and talk to you through a conservative worldview. I think I would be lying to you if I pretended that I wasn't biased. That's my problem with the mainstream media. But think about this for a second. According to this report, only 14% of Canadians believe the media reports on a variety of political views very well. That's an abysmal number. It means the vast majority of people know they're being either lied to or fed one-sided propaganda instead of real, straight journalism. But here's where it gets interesting. French-speaking Canadians still trust the CBC, while English speakers are leaning toward independent news. Why? Because the English side of the country, well, they just have more options. And so they can see through the lies a little quicker, and they've had enough. They're turning to outlets that aren't on the government payroll because, shocking as it may seem to the elites in Ottawa, people don't trust journalists who take cash from the very politicians they're supposed to hold accountable. Now, here's another blow to the legacy press. The way people consume news is shifting. 66% of Canadians get their news online. Cable TV, well, that dinosaur is just limping along at 49%. And don't even get me started on the streaming numbers. 3/4 of Canadians are watching Netflix instead of tuning into whatever government-approved fluff the CBC is airing today. No wonder the Liberals are trying to control what we stream with Bill C-11 by expanding the mandate of the CRTC to control streaming in all of its forms, from TikTok to YouTube to Netflix. Now, what does that tell us? Well, it's simple. The old guard is collapsing. People are sick of the narrative control, sick of being told what to think, and sick of the blatant bias being disguised as straight reporting. More Canadians are actively choosing where they get their news. They're being selective, and they're looking for alternative and comparative sources. And guess what? That's bad news for the government and their obedient mouthpieces in the press. Because when people wake up, they start asking questions. When they refuse to swallow the official line, well, that's when the media and their political overlords lose control of you. And these people know it. That's why they're pushing harder than ever to regulate, censor, and demonetize independent media. That's why Bill C-18 tried to choke off reach for outlets that don't toe the line, while also extorting money for those that do toe the line. And they're doing that extortion by hammering social media giants. That's why they're desperate to shove so-called trusted news sources down our throats. But here's the thing. Canadians don't trust them anymore. The CRTC can spend as much taxpayer money as they want on reports like this, but it won't change the fact that Canadians have already seen behind the curtain. And no amount of Trudeau-bought journalism will put that genie back in the bottle. The mainstream media's days are numbered, and good riddance. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Hey, if you are like me and you think that CBC should be parted out like an old minivan and pieces sold off to the highest bidder, well, then have I got a t-shirt for you. It's at rebelnewsstore.com. Go there and get your Sell the CBC t-shirt. Again, that's rebelnewsstore.com. If you don't want the CBC t-shirt, I promise you there's something there at rebelnewsstore.com.